Hey, everybody, welcome to another conversation. We're getting close to 50. I haven't added them up yet, but I think we're starting to get into our 40s. And what I decided, just so you know, because I can feel you guys lamenting the fact that you won't have more conversations to listen to, because you're filling your days listening to conversations that I'm having with strangers, which are fabulous, by the way. And if you're not, try it. I think you'll like it. I'm going to do 50.2, the next version of 50 conversations, and we're just going to keep it going because there's a certain magic that happens in this room. We know it as a Zoom room, but to me it's like a magic place. People come in having no idea who the other person is. Maybe people know me a little bit more because they've watched one of the shows, but I've tried to make it a pact not to know anything about the people coming in, so that I can have the experience of really experiencing them like you experience them for the first time. So today we both have the honor of meeting Matt Teck. Matt, welcome to 50 Conversations with 50 Strangers. How are you today?
I'm fabulous. It's my honor to be here.
I love that you say that. Like, it's such an easy thing to let pass, but that's such a privilege for you to say that to me. Why is it your honor to be here? What is it about it that makes you feel that? Unless you're just being kind, and you can say I'm just being kind. It's just proverbial stuff.
No, I am honored. I think in this day and age, conversation like this is lacking. Conversations between strangers about anything and everything without any preconceived notions, I think, is something that our society lacks. And the fact that you make yourself open to it, I'm honored to be part of the movement.
Well, thank you so much for seeing that, for appreciating that, for saying that. Um, Tell us who you are and what's important to you.
My name is Matt Teck. If you can hear the noise behind me, I work in a hotel and I'm in my hotel right now.
Wow.
So,
Where is your hotel and which hotel? Let's give a little plug out.
oh, sure. So I'm at the brand new Courtyard by Marriott in St. Louis, just outside of St. Louis, West County, St. Louis.
Wow.
So very close to downtown, but that's my day job. That's my day job. Besides that, I'm a Christian, husband, father of two, and just love being on the earth, spreading love to people.
You can see it in your face. You know,
Appreciate
we
that.
had a moment in the green room where you said, I asked you how you're doing. You said, I'm doing great. And I said, you can feel it in your voice. And I love, one of the things that I love is I'm a little bit of an empath, which I don't know if that goes well in a Christian faith, but I'm going to just say it because that's who I am. I'm a little bit of an empath. I feel people, and I can feel energies as they come into the room. I
Hmm.
immediately know who's going to take a little while to thaw out, who's going to just show up authentically, who's going to be real. And it was such an honor to see you come in because there's an openness about you that is really very beautiful, and that may come from your faith. And I love when people of faith sit in a room together and have a conversation because it's just tends to be beautiful conversation.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So what's important to you, Matt?
What's important to me? Kindness is important to me. My family is very, very important to me. God's very important to me. And just helping others find their sense of worth and sense of meaning is important to me as well. Somebody did that to me probably about 10 or 12 years ago, and my life changed after that. And so I just find myself wanting to pour into other people the same way.
What a beautiful thing to do. For the listeners listening, I didn't know Matt. I never spoke to him. I never emailed him. I never texted him. But to know that a man like this exists, if I just take a moment to reach out and say, hey, how you doing? You want to have a conversation? Does it give you hope? Because it
Mm-hmm.
certainly gives me hope to just see this beautiful, innocent being just here to help people.
I think I'm being walked in on, Daniel. I'm
Okay,
so
all right,
sorry.
that's okay.
He just, oh, Matt's in here.
Hi.
Oh, hey.
Hi. Sorry about that.
Do they know you're doing a live show?
They do now.
Okay. All right. Okay, great. Okay.
She may have
So
thought I was in the other meeting room. We have two
I
of them.
I got you. Um, so maybe sounds like the same type of question, but I'd like to just ask it anyway. What makes you happy?
What makes me happy? Well, the first thought that comes into my head is my children. My children are very, very important to me. My family makes me very happy. I feel like it's a repetitive theme. My family
Yeah,
and
but
my
that's good.
children. Um,
Consistent rather than repetitive.
it is, and I like being able. I like knowing that I can give them whatever opportunity they want. You
Yeah.
know, and our family has changed over the years, but seeing my children grow up and come into personalities of their own has been a thing of beauty to witness. They're 4 and 8, so they're in that age where they're starting
Yeah.
to come into those, and it's been beautiful to witness.
I love that. Slide that now to the right. You can't answer that anymore.
Okay.
What makes you happy now?
What makes me happy? Well, in this moment, it varies moment by moment,
Okay.
you know, but right now in this moment, Daniel, I'm staring out the window and I see a beautiful blue sky, I see beautiful green trees. The wind is blowing, and so in this moment, as I'm staring past the camera up there, the beauty of the world makes me happy. But if I look back down to you, just the beauty of having this conversation is making me very happy as well.
So I want to ask you one more time because I'm trying to get at something. I don't know if I'll do it.
Sure.
And you don't
Sure.
have to go there. I want you to close your eyes and forget about anything else that's outside of you that exists.
Okay.
Not because of your children, not because of your family, not because of the beauty of the world you live in, not even because of the God that you know. What actually makes you, Matt Teck, happy?
I might get emotional.
That's great.
Helping others. I know that's a very um, kind of a catch-all statement, but helping people in a particular way. Lately, more so, my wife and I have been involved more in helping others recently, and seeing somebody's expression on their face for the first time, knowing that they can have more and be more than what they think they have right now before they've been assisted, has been pretty amazing.
And what brought tears to that? Because I feel like there's something in there that you're carefully uh, carefully holding on to so that you don't like. I just I just want to get to the heart of it
Yeah,
because so many people can say helping others and as beautiful it is and as emotional it is to be able to help somebody see something or experience an experience or feel God's presence or feel well or be able to do something that they couldn't do. It doesn't bring most people to tears. Why would that? Why did that bring you to tears?
well, the thing I was thinking specifically about is my wife and I are very passionate about volunteering and helping the spreading of awareness and helping children who have been rescued out of sex trafficking, out of human
Wow.
trafficking.
Okay.
So that
Huge,
specific thing.
huge. I thank you. I'm so happy I asked that because what a beautiful mission or ministry that you have for yourself and your wife and people because what an ugly life that is, to be
Mm-hmm.
promised to come to America to have work or whatever and then be thrown into a life like that.
It is ugly. Yeah.
Ugly, ugly. Um, I'm just sitting with it a minute. Sorry. If money weren't an object, if money wasn't the reason for anything, if you had all the money in the world that you wanted, what would you do?
My wife and I have talked about this quite a bit, actually. We would love to like renovate a bus or an RV into something massive, you know, a couple of bedrooms, enough for us and the kids. And we would just travel all around the country. We homeschool our children. So one thing that we would do is we would travel to the place where these events that we're teaching them about took place, so they could actually be there and experience it in real life. And then also take this mission, this passion that we have, from place to place, and raise leaders within those communities to be able to do kind of what we do here in St. Louis.
What I love that. I don't know if you know this, because why would you? But I wrote this book called The Mosaic, and I finally pointed the right place, because it's over my left shoulder, even though to me it's on my right. And it's a story about a boy who loses his parents 2 years apart on the same day. And when the boy asks the adults where his parents are, they say they're in a place called heaven. So he sets out in search of the place called heaven. But the people he meets are not the people he thinks he's going to meet. He thinks he's going to meet rabbis and priests and ministers and healers and shamans and elders from churches and traditions. But he doesn't meet those people. He meets a road worker and a trash man. He meets a blind woman and a homeless man. He meets a gardener and a juice man and a street artist and a traveler. And he says to himself, I wonder why I'm sitting here with these people. What can these people show me about heaven? Then he hears of him. He sort of just calms himself down. He says, you're here with them. Why don't you just sit and listen to them? Why don't you listen to their stories and hear what they have to say? And it's not only in the stories that they tell him, but in the process of just listening, that he realizes that the person he came up to and sat down with isn't the same person that he's sitting with now. Because the person he came up to was the person he saw. He didn't see the person as they were. He saw the person that he was. And when it happened over and 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 over again, he started to wonder, I wonder if I see anything the way it is, or if I see everything the way I am. And that sort of slide left is from the Mosaic. Like, what would happen if I slid myself to the left and got out of my way for a minute? What would I see?
Mm-hmm.
And that change of perspective became the heaven that he saw. Because he saw there's a different way of seeing everything that he looks at. That what he sees is only what he sees, 100% what he sees. But it isn't ever what it really is.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, what do you think you would see if you got out of your own way?
It's funny you asked that. As you're telling that story, we're in the midst of a lot of civil unrest, a lot of racial injustice here in the United States. And I feel like I've been in my own way for a long time, and just recently, over the last couple of months, have stepped out of my own way to do almost the exact same things that your book is describing. So I live very close to an area called Ferguson, which was thrust into the national news back in 2014 after the shooting of Michael Brown. And I operated a business in Ferguson. And in that moment, I was just mad because I had lost that. And I didn't take the time to understand. Now, I don't know if it's spiritual maturity, if it's, I'm 6 years older now. But when this whole thing happened, Ferguson, again, inflamed, because there's always been kind of those low embers of pain that have been given new oxygen now. And I felt like it was God telling me, I need you to go to Ferguson, where you're probably very uncomfortable. And I need you to go, and I need you to remember that you have 2 ears and you have one mouth, and I want you to sit and I want you to listen to the stories. So for 3 weeks, because I was on furlough, most of the hotel industry was laid off after COVID.
Yeah.
And it gave me the opportunity to have the freedom to go do that. So I went there, and I've listened to hundreds of stories, anywhere between a 10-year-old boy all the way up to an 84-year-old Vietnam veteran who was angry at our country. And I just had time to actually listen and understand. And from that, every single person that I met, I looked at them totally different than I would have in 2014 when I didn't take the time to understand.
I so love that story. And the reason why I told you the story that I was going to tell you is that I told you before wasn't even because of the question that came out of nowhere from my mouth to ask you, how could you do that?
Right.
It was to tell you how similar we are because I had set a line in the sand because my book told me it wants me to go out and do what Mo did. It wants me to go not in a search for heaven so much, but in a search to hear what people would say if anybody would listen to them.
Yeah.
Because I saw a world where we speak a lot and we listen a little.
Mm-hmm.
And I have the honor of having a developmentally delayed daughter. She can't speak like you and I speak. And most people don't understand her when she speaks. But because we've been together so much and because I love her so much, I understand her when most people don't. But a lot of times I don't. And Matt, when I don't understand her, she counts on me to understand her. So she'll raise her voice and she'll say it louder, hoping that maybe it was just the volume, but it wasn't the volume, even though I'm getting older and my ears are getting weaker. It wasn't the volume that she said that made me not understand it. It was the lack of clarity. And so when she raised her voice and she said it, and then I didn't get it, then she would throw a tantrum. And the tantrum could happen immediately after her raising her voice, or hours after, or even sometimes days after. So it would just come out of nowhere, sometimes in a store, or when we're walking on the beach, when we're sitting at home having dinner, when we're at a friend's house. All of a sudden, she would just go wild. In a restaurant, it didn't matter. And I think I'm an intelligent man, and I tried my best to try and understand it, but I had no clue as to what was going on. Finally, in the midst of my anguish, in the midst of her rage, I said to her, Lisa, I love you more than anything. I think you know that. There's not much more I can do to show you that I love you. But I just don't understand your words. And it pains me to no end because I want so badly to understand you. All I live for is to understand what you want to say so I can help you have the things you need. Can you talk to me without words?
Mm.
And she went from the midst of her rage to this big, beautiful smile on her face. And she said, I am, Daddy. And I said, what the heck are you talking about? You are, Daddy. How have you been doing that? And she took her finger and pointed to the side of her head. And I said, you little son of a gun, have you been putting thoughts in my head? And she started to laugh and smile. And I said, I thought you were doing that, but I just didn't trust it. And she went, yes, Daddy, yes. And we laughed contagious laughter for 10, 15 minutes of just this relief of finally being able to hear my daughter and her finally being able to find a way to express herself to me so that I could hear her. And Matt, if the story would have ended there, I would have been completely happy. I would have had a relationship with my daughter unlike the one that I've had before. I would have had her screaming stopped, her tantruming stopped, her attacks stopped. So I thought, I wonder what would happen if I took this into the marketplace that I work in. I took it into some of the top boardrooms in the country. I took it into government offices. I took it into hospitals. I took it into shelters. I took it into places where bookstores. I took it into workplaces. And I watched the same behaviors. When people speak and they don't get heard, they yell. When they yell and they don't get heard, they create chaos. They create a scene. They get loud. They get boisterous. They start to threaten. They start to do stuff. And when that doesn't work, they destroy. They shoot up a building. They blow up a building. They show up a town square. They try and ruin the reputation of a family. They end a marriage. They get into violence. They march through the streets and start to riot and protest because they just don't feel heard.
Mm-hmm.
And my 30-year-old developmentally delayed daughter showed me the answer to all those problems. It's just to listen to each other so that people feel heard. When people feel heard, they don't need to yell. They don't need to tantrum. They don't need to scream.
Right.
And if we can't hear them the way they're speaking, let's find a way that we can hear each other. What do you think about that?
I think it's incredible. I think that you're modeling what our culture needs to be doing right now. You've seen the results. I've been seeing the results. You know, she would say that she's been putting thoughts in your minds. You know, as a Christian, you know, we would call that the Holy Spirit, and you can kind of give that off with your smile, with your presence, with the way that you hold yourself. You said that when we got into the room back in the green room, that you could feel something about me,
Totally.
just like I can feel something about you.
Yeah.
And it all comes from not forming any opinions ahead of time, and just going in fresh and hearing exactly what people have to say. Your story is incredible. That's amazing.
Well, yours isn't too bad for itself either, going into the town where you got mad and just starting to listen to people and what happened. Let's play a little so we get out of this little, make it a little bit lighter.
Sure.
Are you a dog or a cat person?
Dog.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee. My wife has a tea business, but coffee.
Oh, no.
Me.
Does that create problems? I mean, here she said.
Sometimes.
That's great that she has a tea business. What a neat thing to have. Yeah. Would you say you're a person that lives in the box or out of the box?
Out of the box.
Love that. You're especially going to get this, and I know you're especially going to understand how important both of these things are. But I want you to pick one of them that's most important to you right now in this minute. Okay. And tomorrow could be entirely different. But which one of these two is more important to you today? Is it more important for you to have a platform where you can speak and be heard? Or is it more important for you to create a platform so that other people can speak and that you and other people would listen to them?
The latter, to create a platform where other people can speak and I can listen.
I love that. I love that. Do you feel like you fit into the world, or do you feel different?
Different.
Interesting. And would you say you come from your head or from your heart?
My wife would tell you that I come from my head, but I really try to lead with my heart.
Love that. So where's the incongruence there in your mind?
Personality types. I'm a very analytical person. What Florence Littauer in Personality Plus would call a choleric. And my wife is the exact opposite. She is what's known as a melancholy. Melancholy, not a bad term.
Right.
But that specific personality type, she is much more empathetic like you are.
Yeah.
And I balance between a choleric and a sanguine. So I'm either like really serious or a life of the party, depending on the situation. So in any landscape that I'm in, work, church, play, I really try to lead with my heart first, because I think people hear that before they hear this.
Yeah. Your answers are beautiful. I love them. Would you say you're a leader or a follower?
A month ago, I would have said that I'm a leader. But I think lately, with the amount of listening that I've been doing and the amount that I've been just trying to absorb, I would say that I'm following now. I'm going to break this in chunks. I apologize if it kind of throws you off.
No, don't apologize. I love it.
I'm a leader, but I have taken a break from leading to follow to become a better leader.
Understand. There's no apology needed for that. That's beautiful. When I look at the leadership of this country, and I don't want to get political because I'm not going to talk about one side or the other. Mm-hmm. I'm going to talk about both sides. What I see is a country in chaos. and a country in confusion and a country desperately needing leadership. Because I see whichever party we're a part of or not a part of,
Mm-hmm.
that I don't see the leadership in that party being able to say, I love this about our party and what we're doing, and this is just not acceptable. Whether you're a Republican and a pro-Trump person or a Democrat and an anti-Trump person, I don't see anybody breaking out of the silo that much. I mean, a couple people have done it, but they've got ostracized for doing it.
Mm-hmm.
To say we could be a better country if we would all give credit to where credit's due.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes I look at what the Democrats do to Trump. They don't give the guy a moment to breathe. Like I wouldn't say I'm a big Trump fan,
Mm-hmm.
but he's done some beautiful things. He's done some
Mm-hmm.
really good things for our country. But they don't give him one speck of credit.
Mm-hmm.
They bash him every corner he turns. He gets hit by a pole.
Right.
Maybe deservedly, maybe not. Depends which
Sure.
side you're on. Okay. But I look at the Republicans, and then it's almost as if they don't have the courage to stand up and say, "You've done great. We love this new feeling that you've brought." But this stuff, this is inexcusable.
Mm-hmm.
And if we would come together and sort of just give credit where credit's due and say, this is what we can't stand for and this is what we do stand for, I believe we would be way closer together than we are right now.
I agree.
So you agree?
Absolutely.
Why do you think we have a dearth, not a depth? Why do you think we have a dearth of leadership today?
I don't think that the leaders are approaching policy issues, social issues. I don't think that they're approaching this with unity as the forefront. I think they're approaching it with, can I push this side's agenda? Now, as a Christian, us Christians tend to get lumped into a specific side of this,
Yeah.
which just furthers the divide. Now, there are fundamental things that a Christian believes that are unwavering, that do kind of lean towards one side that we are unapologetic about and won't change.
Yeah.
But as far as the leadership goes, I think if we did more of this instead of this,
Yeah.
if we can admit that we're wrong, if we can admit that we don't have all the answers and we can reach out for help, both sides doing this,
Yeah.
then if we can unite, then you have a United States of America. I think we've lost the united part in the name of our country. But if we can get some people in office that just remember foundationally what the name of our country is and lead with the first word,
Yeah.
I think we can get a lot done. But it's going to require setting aside your pride and swallowing your pride, which is very hard for people in power to do.
Yeah, it's interesting for me because I hear people on both sides quote the Constitution,
Mm-hmm.
but some of the fundamental principles of the Constitution, they seem to forget.
Right.
We, the people,
Mm-hmm.
didn't say we, the red people or blue people.
Right.
We are one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Indivisible, under God. Like, and why
Mm-hmm.
is that so hard for us to come back to? We are not representing our country. If you could feel, like I feel things, I'm an empath. I don't love that I feel it sometimes, but I feel the country sort of crying.
Mm-hmm.
Like what's happened to this beautiful, beautiful country? Now, I'm not saying we were created beautifully. We did things all along the way that we were met, that we could be ashamed of, but we did some things that we could be really proud of too. And as times have changed, we're going to adapt and we're going to realize, hey, we made some mistakes, but we still have the power to be the righteousness, to still be a beautiful country, and we still are a beautiful country.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think we need to become great again. We just need to be great.
Right.
We've always been great. And I don't mean that as a slam against Trump.
Sure.
But I think we just need to see the greatness of what we have. And that's not owned by a color or a state or
Mm-hmm.
a region. It's owned by us, the people. And I think eventually, if you think about what my daughter taught me, if we, the people, don't feel heard,
Mm-hmm.
we, the people, will start to scream, will start to tantrum, and will start to create chaos until and we'll start to destroy until we, the people, come up with a system that is better. And I just don't see why people don't see that. A 30-year-old developmentally delayed kid can show that to me. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts?
When you said indivisible, I just had this moment of clarity. And as much turmoil is going on right now in the country, you can ask any of my friends, I remain incredibly optimistic,
Yeah.
because I don't know if you're familiar with a concept called the sigmoid curve or the change curve.
Mm-mm.
But basically it's a growth curve. Whenever you implement a new strategy or a new rule, so business wise or something, change marketing tactics, when you're in a growth trajectory, what you're currently doing will only take you so far before it comes back down.
Got you.
So along the way, you have to recognize where your peak is and make an adjustment beforehand. But whenever you make an adjustment, there's always this little dip. There's denial. There's people who just don't accept what's going to happen. And the period between where you are in that dip and coming back up to where you were so that you can get higher and grow
Yeah.
more,
Love
that
that.
little period, the sigmoid curve calls the period of chaos.
Yeah.
And I think that we're in there right now, but I'm confident that we're going to rise up and become better than we were before. And
I love that.
it's hard for people to see, because that kind of change, it is not over the course of a year or two. It's going to take some time. And we just
Yeah.
all, so as well as practicing unity and practice listening, we also have to practice patience.
Yeah. And I think you said it in the beginning. I think you said it, that there's a certain kindness that just if we show to each other,
Yeah.
that would propel us so much further.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think people are more different than they are alike, or more alike than they are different?
I think people are more different than they are alike, and I think that's the beauty in it. I think that the diversity of the human race is a beautiful thing, and it was designed that way.
I love your answer, because it's exactly the opposite answer that most people give, and probably the different answer that I give too. Because I think, and I would love your thoughts on this. Just, I'm not challenging you. I really
Sure.
want to hear your thoughts. Okay. I feel like on the outside we are really different. Like you're there in St. Louis or in Missouri, and I'm in California. You're a young smart buck. I'm gonna get into be an old dying man. We look different. We act different. We feel different. We believe in different things. But when we get through the superficiality of all of those things, I believe we're so much the same that we can't even bear it.
Mm.
And I believe a lot of the pain that we experience is not because our brothers and sisters are causing us pain. You can't hit me as hard as I can hit myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of us are hitting ourselves all the time. So why, if we're the same, wouldn't we just hit each other? Because that's what we do. We hit ourselves and knock ourselves down.
Mm-hmm.
There's the golden rule: do unto others as you want others to do unto you. The Mosaic showed me another rule. It showed me that I would never treat another human being with a lack of respect that I treat myself with.
Mm.
And it said to me, do unto yourself like you would do unto others. You would never say the things to them that you say about yourself. You would never treat them the way you treat yourself. If they would fall down, you'd get down on your arms and knees and help them get back up.
Mm-hmm.
When you fall down, you say, you stupid idiot, how come you fell down? What do you think about that new edition of the rule?
Well, if you've ever flown before, if those masks come down, you have to put your own on first.
Yeah.
And because you can't help anybody else unless you're healthy, spiritually, mentally, physically. So taking care of your body, your mind, your spirit has to be first. And I think in that respect, we're all the same. We have to take care of ourselves a specific way where we all crave love.
Yeah.
We all crave purpose. We all crave meaning. And I think in that we're the same. I think the way in which those things play out, the love, the meaning, the impact that we have, I think there's more diversity in that comes from a foundational sameness. That's what I find beauty in. Like if you look at a painting, for me, a painting that has the more colors, and this isn't a racial thing, but the more colors for me, the painting is more beautiful. Now the colors can be what you do for work, who you're married to, the children you have, where you live, how you've decided to paint your house, how you've decided to give back to the world. Those are the different paintings. It's like Van Gogh's dots. They all mean something different, but the canvas is where we're the same with love and meaning, if that makes sense.
Well, you're talking to a guy who wrote a book called The Mosaic. And so instead of a canvas, like, dude, use the mosaic as your, because it's, no, I'm teasing you. It's made up of all these different pieces. Some are broken, some are whole. They're all different colors. They're all different shapes and sizes. They're from all different regions. They're from all different countries. They're made up of different materials. But when they come together, something beautiful happens. The artistry of the totality of all those pieces together is what makes the mosaic beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
In your picture, in your painting rather than mosaic. No, I'm teasing you. In your analogy, it's all of the dots of those paintings that make the painting what it is, beautiful. And it would be boring if they were all the same color. It would be boring if they were all the same size. It might look nice for one painting to have it be that way, but not for too much longer.
Yeah.
Let me stay with the mosaic for a minute. This is not what the book's about, but it's just the image of the mosaic.
Mm-hmm.
In a mosaic, in a piece of artwork, sometimes pieces just connect corner to corner. Symbolic of the fact that what this piece actually feels and what this piece actually feels, they don't share that much. But what they connect that is the one place where they do share, where there is similarity.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder why, if in a piece of art we can see the beauty of that connecting even the smallest amount to keep something whole, why we can't in humanity, where we all believe basically in the same principles. There's no religion that says go out and kill somebody. There's no religion that says you'll be happy when your children are hurt. There's no religion that says it's a great idea to go and steal from other people so that you can be better. There's nothing that teaches us anything but a moral value that we all basically believe in. Why would we look at the differences of skin color or money or border, or even one that'll be trickier for you, religion? Why do we look at those things and allow those to separate us when inherently, if we would just connect where we could connect, we'd have an opportunity to connect even deeper?
It's a deep question, Daniel.
Every once in a while, a blind squirrel catches a nut. You know,
so we have 2 ears and we have 1 mouth. But we also have 2 eyes, and I don't think that you mentioned that sometimes there's only two points that connect, and if we can find those points, then we can find some common ground because it's now together. It's unified. I just don't think that we take the time to look for it. I think
Why?
that we.
What I want to know, because you're a thoughtful man, you're a God-believing man. Why in the world would we not do it? It's not like the way we're living is bringing us a tremendous amount of joy and is answering up all of our problems.
Yeah.
It's insanity to think that we can continue doing what we're doing and find an answer by not doing anything
Correct.
different.
Hmm.
Why wouldn't we look? What are we so scared to find?
I think we're scared of not being comfortable. I think that our there's a lot of people that are okay with complacency, and they're okay being just who they are, and they're okay with just having what they have, and they're okay thinking what they think. And when you live in a place of perpetual complacency, then you end up seeking viewpoints that just validate your comfort level
Yeah.
instead of actually. There's a great book by Bruce Wilkinson called The Dream Giver, and it's all about this. The central character, his name is Ordinary, and the land that he lives in is called the land of familiar, and he's trying to get to his dream. But in order for him to get to his dream, he has to leave the land of familiar. Now, along the way, on this journey around the edge of town, are these entities called border bullies. And these border bullies are usually your friends, your family, trying to keep you in the land of familiar, because by you becoming uncomfortable and chasing your dream, you're making other people uncomfortable in that moment. And so I think it's just become this big, this culture of complacency. And in, but you said that there's two small points that meet sometimes. Well, if I'm not mistaken, there are some mosaics where there are parts that perfectly align with each other.
100%.
And when you see, but here's the thing, whether it aligns perfectly or it aligns on the smallest part of each piece of the mosaic, it's overall, it creates a thing of beauty. And I think
the artwork it makes the piece whole. It doesn't matter if it connects like this or like this. It still has the fact that there's connection and it doesn't break makes the piece whole.
Yes,
and by the way, I love that. By the way, I
Yeah.
love that you're using a mosaic now as your image rather than a Van Gogh.
I thought you would like that.
I'm teasing you.
We have to zoom out and be able to picture, to see the big picture of what this can become.
Yeah.
If we can find those points where they meet.
Yeah.
But that's going to require being a little bit uncomfortable. Just like going to Ferguson was very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, I found a lot I made a lot of new friends.
I bet.
And I saw a beautiful piece of art over those 3 weeks.
Yeah, I bet you did. When you look at the world that's out there today, I mean, it wasn't too long ago that we had a Me Too movement, which seemed to throw us off our center. Me Too is almost in the background now. I don't mean to say it's out in the background. There's still women's rights are really important, but then COVID came. And it took away all of our ability it put the whole world at the same time on pause. I don't remember a time in history where that's happened, where the whole world and every nation was on pause. And that was the biggest story for a while until race started to take over. And suddenly now we have people standing up and saying, God, I haven't been listened to in years. We're people too. We're not just things. We matter. And then we had the beautiful, inclusive nature of our country saying, we all matter. Well, we all do matter, but these people right here haven't mattered for a long time. Right? And these people haven't mattered, and these people haven't mattered. Let's give them some respect and get them to a place where we can all matter.
Absolutely.
Do you believe the world's trying to tell us something?
I believe that people's, and I can't help but approach this from a Christian perspective, because it's what I know.
I want you to approach it that way.
I feel that those complacent spirits, right? Because the Bible will tell us that we're not a body, we're a spirit occupying a body until this body is no longer of use to us anymore. I believe our spirits are crying out, and the earth that God created is crying out for, you can call it the return of the Lord. I just call it I can't help but use the word unity, because that is a consistent theme across Scripture as well, is the unifying of the body of Christ, bringing people into the body, whether you symbolically are an arm, a mouth, an eyeball, an ear, whatever you are in the body of Christ, that's your place. You have a role. And it does say, this isn't like Revelation talk, the world's not ending tomorrow. Okay. That's not what this is all about. But, but it mentions that these things are happening. These things have happened, just not in the same way that we're seeing them. They've happened over time.
Yeah.
So I would say that it's us within the world that are crying out for something different, for more of an atmosphere of love than of division. I think the division has been driven so hard that it's hardened a lot of people. It's hardened a lot of hearts and built up a lot of walls over time. And I think that what we're experiencing are these walls coming down so that there's no more barriers between people.
Beautiful. I hope you're right.
I do too.
With those walls coming down, I was brought up Jewish, so what I love about your story is that the Jews obviously didn't accept Jesus as the Messiah, but they still are waiting for the Messiah to come. Mm-hmm. And it always was my belief system, now no longer being Jewish or Christian or anything, more sort of a Buddhist way of thinking in my mind, that when the Jews welcome the Messiah, the Christians will welcome him back. And we'll look at the same figure and we'll all have the answer to what we've been looking for a long time.
Yeah.
And it will unify us. Just a dream, perhaps.
Well, in that moment too, I'm glad you said that. In that moment where we all experience that, what we disagreed on is no longer going to matter.
100,000%. And it'll be I think COVID-19, now that we're sitting here, I haven't ever thought about this before, is a preparatory exercise to get us ready for an experience of experiencing an experience together again. I mean, how cool could that be? If that
it would be very cool.
You're right. Knowing that that we want that love. If you had 1 minute right now to stand on a platform and share with people a love that would touch every heart, what would you say right now?
I'm a dad, and when I look at my children, there's an unconditional love. They've had to do nothing to earn it from me.
Yeah.
They just exist, and I love them for who they are. When they're 15, maybe that'll change when they get attitudes or something, but
it won't.
I love them unconditionally just because they are who they are, whether I step on a Lego or whether they look at me and say, "Daddy, I love you."
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And from my perspective on this earth, there is a God who loves you the same way, if not even more, than you could possibly love your children. The Bible says that our love for our children is like filthy rags compared to how much God loves us.
Yeah.
And so for anybody watching, whatever your belief system is, my perspective is that the God that created this earth loves you in that very same, if not more, capacity. And if you can accept that, then I think that that's going to open you up to being able to redefine how you show love to other people, which will go to the point that Daniel and I are talking about unity, breaking down the walls, being one. I don't know if that was a minute.
Oh yeah, no, that is perfect.
Okay.
If it wasn't, it deserved to have every moment more than it was. There's a beautiful saint that I heard about years ago called the Curador, and he had a saying that I always used to love, I was in a monastery for 10 years. And he said, if you only knew how much God loved you, you would die for joy. It's just so simple. It's just so sweet. And yet we have a hard time even saying God as a word. So many people take offense to it because of the stories they've created about this God that they no longer believe in or do believe in. When we step back and zoom out, like you were saying, and see the world not for the story that we're watching right now, but in the entirety of the story, we might see something differently than we see. One of the beautiful things that I love about the book, The Mosaic, that I wrote, that was written through me, really, was that moment where Mo realizes that he doesn't see anything the way it is. And he wonders what he would see if he could sidestep himself and see what he's never seen before.
Mm.
Try that on with God. If you have problems with him, slide your problems to the side for a minute. What might you see if you could see what you don't see? Matt, if people are as intoxicated with you as I am and want to get in touch with you, I want you to send me all your links so we can put them in the show notes, and I'm going to need a headshot of you. How would they get in touch with you?
Well, in the midst of this pandemic, I started a podcast out of this, and just to share my heart with people and try to give people tools to live a better life, whether that be in the areas of marriage, parenting, career. And so I just kind of threw up all the lessons that I've learned and had some experts on. So I have a website, techtalkspodcast.com. And then Tech Talks is all one word, TECK Talks. And that's found anywhere that you listen to podcasts.
Perfect. And you'll give me the links. We'll have those links up in our show notes for people.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And you've inspired me, Daniel, if I can for a second. You know, we connected because I reached out to have difficult conversations for the purpose of having conversations with people who think different things than I do. And when you reached out and I watched conversations that you've had with other people, you used the word intoxicating. I had to stop watching at about the fifth or sixth one because I didn't want to get so ahead that this didn't feel genuine.
Wow.
But now that we've done this, I can go watch the rest of them with kind of a renewed vision. But I just wanted to thank you for doing this because I think that you're setting a great example.
What an honor for you to say that, because I really honor and respect you as a human being and a spirit. And I really appreciate that you would say that and see it. You know, for me, the way we walk into a room is the way the room looks.
Mm-hmm.
We can walk in thinking we're going to have difficult conversations. But if we walk in with an open heart and say, I love you. I just want to hear what you believe. I want to hear what you think. I want to understand you. I might push you to understand because I just don't understand it, but I'm never going to push you to change your mind.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to understand the way you see the world, because if the Mosaic showed me anything, it showed me different people looking at the same thing, see the world differently. And that's where innovation happens in business. That's where the impossible becomes possible in relationships, where we start to see the same exact thing differently. And if we were to see it from a 360-degree perspective, with all the different degrees, we only see one degree of perspective. And we have the audacity and the arrogance to say that perspective is right. But if we would open up and see the other 359, I wanted to start a work called the 359 to just help people to realize there's 359 other degrees of perspective. Mm-hmm. That would enrich us so much more. That would give us so much more value. That would give us so much more texture. That would allow people who we agree with or disagree with to walk into the same room and feel loved. I say on a lot of these podcasts, I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of different people: rich, poor, spiritual, not spiritual, religious, not religious. None of them ever said to me, Danny, believe like I believe. Mm. when they felt loved and accepted, when they felt listened to and heard, when they felt acknowledged and validated, they didn't really care what I believed. I mean, there's a few people that want my soul to be saved, and whether they're Buddhist or Christian or Hindu or Muslim or Jewish, um, but for the most part, they say, you're a good guy. You're doing something good, and I think the world would go a lot further. I think if we could start where we agree and then intoxicate each other to the belief systems that might make us even more intoxicating, we might find that we're more alike than we ever were apart.
I agree.
I want to thank you for coming, Matt. I want to thank those of you who listen to the show for listening. I want to invite you to share this out. What could be greater than finding someone, a stranger, in a strange room, talking to another stranger that you feel akin to? And what would be better than if we started doing work together
Right.
and helping each other fulfill our dreams? With that in mind, any parting last word you want to say before we go?
Just wanted to tell you that I appreciate you again. Thank you.
Back at you, brother. Big mirror. Thank you. And for all of you listening, I appreciate you and we appreciate you. And share this with your friends. Until next conversation, don't be a stranger. Ciao.